Okay, YouTube, I'm just going to show you how to remove a dot connector from an iPod Touch 2. I don't use the hot air rework station I have simply because of all the components surrounding the dot connector. Plus you need a terrific amount of heat and it's spread all over, all localized in one area. We don't really need to do that. So I'm going to desolder. We need to get those 2 points off first. And here's the back end. So I'm going to use my trusty desolder gun, which is a Weller station. I got that from eBay for £80. So firstly, we need to be very careful of all of these components, as I say. You can see how it's all tracked in there. I'm going to use a craft knife. You don't need to watch these connectors here. I'm pointing to one in particular, which was the LCD display, and I'm sure a lot of you know what the iPod Touch is all about. So anyway, first thing we're going to do is we're going to slice these pins down along the top. Not near the board, along the top of the dot connector, and just slice through them very gently. Don't need to put a lot of pressure, just let the knife basically just drag it across. They're not very thick, these wires, and being made of very soft material, it's very easy. So I'm just going to cut this video down a bit in order to show you how we're progressing here. Turn it around, get the other side as soon as you're through. We don't want to slice the board. We don't want to start wrenching off, because if we tear one of these pins off and it takes a pad with it, we've got a totally useless board. So there we are. I've sliced through all of those now. I'm just double checking I've got every single one prior to going to work on the bracket connectors, which are soldered both ends. There's one solder point there, and then the other side we have another solder point there. So what we're going to do is desolder these. Now you can, if you want, just put solder down at the top of the board and just lift it up, but it does take a bit to do it. Now I'm going to use a craft knife just to make sure that the anchor points where the screws go are detached from the board. We don't want those stuck down, so be very careful that you don't touch any components. Just make sure that it's free. And we're going to come in with my desolder gun and basically apply some heat here to remove as much solder as we possibly can. Okay, we're probably there. Let's just have a deco. Right, we've got one done. I'm using about 400 degrees on the desolder station because I can't tin the tip of this thing. Simply because of what it is. It's clean, but tin tips tend to make the solder flow and adhere, get a better contact to the tip, but I just keep it as clean as I can. Okay, there's the solder out of that. So what we're going to do is whip it around the other side, and we should be able to flip up one side of this dot connector now. There we are, one side up. The other side's still got a little bit of solder holding it down, so I'm just going to apply a bit of heat to just break this last contact. So let's just bring in the solder iron and just break this out here. And away we go. There we are. That's the dock off. The next thing we're going to work on is the pins. You know, the legs that are still stuck on the board. Now, as I say, we don't want to pull these off. We want to use some solder paste, solder flux, and a soldering iron. I've got mine ramped up to about 350 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, sorry, but 350 degrees C. I'm just removing a little bit of plastic that has been left behind because we don't want that fouling up the solder iron. So first off, we're going to apply some flux to this. This will just make the whole process a lot easier. There's the solder tip. It's quite a wide one. say 350 degrees C, apply some solder flux, and what we're going to use is a drag down action, but we need to make sure that we've applied enough heat to melt the solder so we don't drag any pads away, because these are very, very fine. So, well, you're going to use a drag action. You can see when the solder's melted, it goes shiny. So just position it. I'm working on a cloth here, which means I can wipe the tip on the cloth. Okay, so just drag down, use a drag in action, clean your tip off periodically, just to get all these removed. Just work your way along the board. Okay, so you can take your time on this, but you know, don't go racing off to the garage and bringing out your big heavy solder iron. You really do, if you're going to use a lot of heat, you know, because you can't control the temperature on your solder gun, you need to be fast, in and out, fast as possible. You want to just, you don't need a terrific amount of heat staying on this board, because that's when the damage occurs. Anyway, there we are. We've removed everything. I can just see one more pin left there, which we'll clean up. A bit more solder flux, and then in with the solder iron again, just to clean up the residue. Now we're not going to take all of the solder off of these pads, simply because it helps when we come to put the new dock on, to have a bit of solder on the pads, simply for tacking down in, you know, both end or whatever. I'm actually going to be using a solder paste when it comes down to doing this with a flux gel. So we should have a nice clean even joints with no bridging. Anyway, I'll give you a close-up of this once I've cleaned it down with some isopropylene. I'm just tipping up here just to make sure that everything's nice and clean and nice and neat. It really is as simple as that. It's just having a little bit of patience, just taking your time. So there we are, a little bit of isopropylene now, and that job's a good one. So there we are. I'll just give you a close-up of that in a minute once we've got this cleaned down. So anyway, the next video I'm going to be showing you how to put the dock connector back on, and also solder on a new headphone jack and the battery. Anyway, please subscribe to me if you found this of any interest. Take care. Bye.